What's good people? Vets, let's talk. We got a special guest in front of the formation today, Specialist Geoff Speyrer. Hey, man, before we get started, I'd like you guys to click that like, share, and subscribe. You already know what I say, HBO special. Help a brother out. Hey, if you guys are looking for more military influencers, go ahead and check out paradedeck.com. Once again, that's paradedeck.com. Thank you guys for sticking in there with me. Thank you for that 1 or 2 like that you guys give me. But anyway, thank you for the new subscribers. But mindset is on the topic today. How you doing today, Geoff?
Man, I'm good, Don. How you doing, brother?
I'm great, man. Where you originally from?
I'm originally from Louisiana, Opelousas, Louisiana. And then I bounced around a little bit. I went from Louisiana to Destin, Santa Rosa Beach area. And I'm currently in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Oh man, so originally from Louisiana. So if I was
That
because
food,
I'm a big foodie, bro. So I like to ask people what place should I go to? Because Chicago got the pizza. That's where I'm originally from. But I'm in Texas right now. But Chicago is pizza. Texas is brisket. And where would I go get me a good hearty meal from Louisiana?
man, dude. Like one of my favorite things to eat whenever I'm around there is probably boudin, dude. So like Opelousas has some fire boudin. But New Orleans has, some really good cooking. They got, all that jazz influence and stuff like that, that culture like that, man. There's so much diversity and culture in Louisiana. I mean, it's kind of like there's so many different, like you got North Louisiana, completely different, like, and when I say this, breed and type of people, I mean, it's just like different culture all over the state. You know what I'm saying? So, you got Southwest Louisiana, you got Central Louisiana, and it's kind of funny whenever I had a first sergeant that would say, "I'm from up north I-10," and I'm like, the majority of Louisiana is north of I-10. I-10 runs east to west, like in like the southern portion of the state. So it's kind of funny whenever I hear people say, "I'm from up north I-10." I'm like, yeah, like 70% of the state's north of I-10, dude. That doesn't mean that you're from North Louisiana. Nobody knows that.
Right.
But anyway, that was kind of but like the food there, amazing, man. The jambalaya, the chicken and sausage gumbo, or like there's a lot of seafood in that area. You go like deep south, like oh, Pecan Island, or like Sycamore Point and stuff like that. There's a lot of like, it's a huge fishing culture. So there's a lot of seafood there. You know what I mean? I'm sure same thing in Texas, Texas. But like, dude, Louisiana, dude, it's got that crawfish, dude. So like, if you want to have some spicy food, make sure you bring your blood pressure medication or something to help you with indigestion, because
And some
it'll put it on
tongues.
you.
And some tongues.
Yeah, it'll put it on you. You might want to bring some sugar to put on it to tame the spice down a little bit.
Right. I've been there once and I had some real good cooking, but I had a headache the next day from all the sodium, just like you just said. I
If
brought
you're diabetic or something like that, what is it like? It'll blow. If you got gout or something like that, dude, get ready to get your foot cut off when you come to the boot, dude.
Oh boy.
So
That is so true, man. Appreciate you. That's good to know, bro. Let's jump into these questions real quick, man. Hey, so could you tell the people a little bit about yourself and the struggles you had to overcome?
yeah, man. So my name's Geoff Speyrer. I spent 12 years in the military as a combat engineer and infantry. I was a career E4, if you would call it that. I made a lot of mistakes in my life. Made a lot of mistakes in the course of that, in the course of my military career. But upon returning from, I'll just kind of like give a little bit of a story of that, and then we'll go to like my childhood, like forward, we'll fast track the whole thing.
Right.
So like, I had an 18-month deployment. I spent 12 months in country in Baghdad, Iraq, doing EOD, explosive ordnance disposal, security, and then also doing route clearance missions. Which, if anybody that doesn't know what route clearance is, you're riding down the road looking like a lit up Christmas tree at 3 to 5 miles an hour, and you either find the IEDs, or they find you. And then EOD is, obviously you get a call, EOD goes to every hot call. You do post blast analysis, and those are probably the like probably the worst or the most traumatic part of the missions, because that's where it's just like it's guaranteed that you're going out there to see chaos, or you're going out there to see catastrophe, or like it's just not going to be a good situation out there, right? So upon returning home, I really struggled with I mean, I didn't know what the hell PTSD was. I didn't know what TBI was. And I'm kind of I say PTSD because everybody's really like familiar with the term, but I
Right.
don't like saying the D. I like saying PTS more than anything because it's not a disorder. It's not something that like. Yes, we have to live with it for the rest of our lives, but that doesn't mean that we can't cope with it. It doesn't mean that it's a disease. You are not that. You are not, and that's a thing that veterans like and our military brothers and sisters get so hung up on is like, and myself included, it's like, oh, I'm just a little fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many people do you know that like, oh man, I'm just a disgruntled veteran, this and that, whatever. Man, words are fucking powerful, dude. Like, you can't just you walk around calling yourself these things. Like, yes, I experience post traumatic stress. That is a part of my life, but that does not mean that I can't work really hard at getting over those things. It doesn't mean that I can't overcome that negative mindset and those negative things that have like taken control of my life by experiences that I've gone through. So whenever you have these things, and then you live a life that like kind of not kind of, but falls under like I'm going to say having those those diagnoses was kind of like an it, not kind of it enabled me to like just continue to fuck up,
Right.
and excuse my French, like man, I'm a little colorful with my words
You
sometimes and
good.
stuff
You
like that,
good.
but it just it enables you to keep making mistakes, and like make excuses for them. Oh, I have this, man, like yeah, I have these brain injuries, or I have like whatever, and then we continue down a path of whether it's entitlement or being just like enabled because like we had these issues,
Right.
right? And man, that's not what I want for our veteran community, and that's not what we were like, bro. We're powerful. We're machine. I don't want to say we're not machines, but like we're looked at almost like we are machines, right? Like,
Right.
oh yeah, you do your job. You're supposed to come back and be like fine, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. Or so they say. Like like whenever I was coming back, I had some leadership. We're going through demo, and it was like, hey, just letting you know, if you say that anything's wrong with you, you're going to be here for an additional 2 months. Bro, you think anybody wants to continue to do out processing or be alone, and like or like the rest of the people that say that there's nothing wrong with them, they leave, they go home, they see their families, and then you're stuck looking like something's wrong with you. You think you want to fall into that state? That's not how we operate, dude. Like, we want to be with our people, we want to be with our family. Community is important to us. And at that time I didn't realize how important community was. And then we'll kind of touch base on that a little bit further. But my youngest, I'm kind of get out of that for a second and then go to like my youngest memories from childhood were like some pretty violent and like abusive situations. My youngest memories was seeing my dad beat my mom to a pulp,
Right.
and basically having to deal with that. And like so, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to that. A lot of people grow up and they have abusive things, or like they have these situations where they come from where like their parents might have left them, their parents might have abandoned them, their parents like that, and then like we fall into this like we either become that or we do better than that, right?
Mm.
Or we get somewhere stuck kind of like in between, but we don't have to be a result of the environment that we grew up in, and we don't have to tolerate or allow what those situations were that we came from to dictate the rest of our life. And for a long time, I did. But for a long time, my security was fractured, like coming from those things. Bro, you can't say like from 2 years old to 6 years old, like, I, what my mom, and we moved around a lot as a kid, and then like our houses kept getting broken into, and like we were in these different areas that like she had another relationship where a guy was extremely abusive and kept kicking the doors into the house or breaking the windows and like trying to come in to do like to hurt us and things like that. And I just remember a lot of my childhood I spent scared.
Hmm.
So like you get to a point, man, where you get tired of being scared, and you either like I started to learn or like figure out the only way to not be scared was to put fear in other people's hearts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To become an like that intimidation factor, like I needed to gain fire superiority throughout my life. So we'll fast track a little bit further. I had started to develop like some nervous habits and stuff like that. I was getting picked on, kind of get like bullied a little bit, made fun of and stuff like that. I was never the cool kid growing up. And then I was on a I was on a bus. I was riding this bus to the school, and they were like these kids were extremely cruel, but and they were like making me sit on the floor of the bus, not like on the floor, like just like put my backpack in the middle of the aisle. The bus had a lot of kids on it, and it was like typically people were sitting three to a seat. Well, this kid, like my seat assignment, like I had some real dickheads for like seatmates, I guess you could say, and the kid was like making me sit on the floor, or like I was tolerating that, right? But through the course of life, it's kind of like everything else. Do you oftentimes will tolerate things so we don't feel like we're worthy of even more, right? Like, and that mental place started from a very early age. So I sat on the floor, I sat on my book sack, sat on my book sack, and one day, dude, I had enough, and I was like, "Fuck this kid, dude. Watch this. Like next time that this shit takes place, dude, I'm gonna like I'm putting my foot down." So get in the bus. I was the first one to the seat. he was he was the next one to get to sit in that seat or whatever. The bus was pretty packed by this point, but like we were the only two that were going to be sitting at the seat at this time. The third guy wasn't there yet, and the dude was like, "Get in your spot," and I was just quiet for a minute, and I just kind of sat there. I'm like, "Man, I'm not sitting on the floor."
Hmm.
And he's like, "Dude, get your ass." And this is, I think, this is like fourth grade. Forgive me, like it's either third or fourth grade. And I go and I'm like, this is not about to happen today, right? Like I'm about to put my foot down, and I'm like, you know what? I grab my backpack, I stand up, and then when I'm like face to face with him, I just turn, I drop my backpack, and the second that I drop my backpack, I turn around and I grabbed him by his esophagus and his throat, and I was like, I'm going to fucking kill you. The only thing that I knew was like things and situations and shit that I had seen take place with like what was happening to my mom.
Right.
And then I brought that level of violence to the school bus, and it just so happened that that was like, I mean, I had no real engagement outside of there really with a lot of kids and stuff like that. I really didn't have like a lot of friends back home. The town that I was in at that point in time was like an extremely small town. There wasn't a lot of people to hang out with and stuff like that. So, and this school was probably like an hour from the house. But anyway, that situation took place. Not long after that, I'm not in that school anymore. And I just kind of like it's situations like that that kind of kept presenting themselves. Like I got picked on, and then like I'm in front of, I had to go to counseling and all this stuff, and they're blaming all these things. They're blaming that, but like I'm like, y'all are missing the bug. Y'all are missing the fact of the like I've already witnessed so much violence at a young age. Like I didn't know what else to do. Like like bro, like typically when you get picked on, what like you don't as an adult, it's different. It's like you say what you want to say about me, man. Just don't put your hands on me. The second you put your hands on me, it's all the way up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but you don't like as a kid, you don't have those kind of like you don't typically have those coping skills. You either fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
That's how we respond in every situation. You know what I'm saying? And so I guess I kind of had that, like, I was starting to develop that warrior mentality from a younger age. You know what I'm saying? To like starting to stand up for myself, and being that I came from those kind of situations, I wanted the underdog to always, like, I was a huge underdog type person, right? Like I just always wanted people to that like had the, so to say, like, short end of the stick to like to succeed and to do better. And like if everybody else was like, there's no way that person's gonna do this, there's no way that person's gonna do it, bro, if that motherfucker doesn't quit
Yeah.
and he's persistent, he's gonna come out on top, man. And that's kind of like a lot of times in my life was more about persistence than it was like any kind of skill. I don't have a ton of skill. I'm not genetically gifted in the area of being an endurance athlete. You know
Right.
why? Okay, so like when I came home, so all right, I'm an endurance athlete. I'm a sponsored athlete. I'm a first form sponsored athlete. And we'll kind of get into that. Where when so I was a fugitive for 5.5 years. Through a large part of my military career, I got onto, especially, okay, so I got back in 2005. Um, and in 2005, I started to fall apart a lot. Started turning drinking, started turning drugs, started like, as a lot of people do that really start to suffer with like adapting back to like getting, becoming a civilian again, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
And I spent 13 years stuck in an addiction, from drinking to cocaine to ecstasy. The large part of my career came with meth and shooting up and selling drugs and being a fugitive. And we're not going to go into like all the, like, it doesn't, because like amounts and like how big and being whatever, like, it doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is that my life was on a crash course with death, and there's like three things that come out of that: jails, institutions, and a coffin ride. You know what I mean? So in order to, or not knowing, but like through the course of that, I was battling suicide also, and I had two bouts with intentional overdoses, where I swallowed 100 Valium on a couple different occasions, and ended up in ICU. So, bro, you're not swallowing 100 Valium because like you're searching for a buzz. You know what I'm saying? Like you might 10, 12, 13, whatever. Like you go for 100, you're trying to, you're trying to pull the plug.
Right.
For whatever reason, God didn't have that in my cards, and I didn't even see that and didn't recognize that. The only thing that I could recognize in the course was that like I couldn't do shit right in my life.
Hmm.
I couldn't even kill myself properly. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, damn, man, there's all these things that are going on. Like I can't move past this. I can't do shit right. Like I, I'm going to jail for fighting. I'm going to jail for this. I'm going to jail, like having illegal weapons and all these other things and stuff like that. And like so I spent 5.5 years as a fugitive. 2 of those years I didn't have any electricity. I was just like constantly on the run. I was running off of generators. I had my house like hardwired to a generator and stuff like that, because there was no way that I was getting electricity without the sheriff's department showing up, because they had a flag on my account. They weren't going to let anything like that like take place without them being able to show up. So then the doors come open. I was sleeping. I'd probably been up for somewhere around 11 to 12 days. I was sleeping, and I look over at my nightstand. My pistol's not there. I'm surrounded by SWAT and everything else, and like it was kind of like it was a very emotional moment, because I can remember how I felt in that situation, and like the way that I knew I was probably about to go down for a long time. A lot of the charges that I had were extremely old. They were obviously older than 5 years, because in order, so a lot of these charges have reached a statute of limitations. But that, I mean, doesn't mean that you're not going to do time on them. You know what I mean? So what took place was I get locked up. I still had these reserves in my mind of that, like, I wasn't sure whether sobriety and being clean and things like that were 100% in my cards. I still had these reserves in my mind of like wanting to get back out to the street, wanting to go and start keep doing the things that I was doing and stuff like that, living that ratchet life. But I was that 5.5 years as a fugitive was a very good representation of how like I was struggling I was running from everything my whole life. I was running from like how to cope. I was running from like help. I was running from resources. I was running from like because you have access to resources if you ask the right questions. But a lot of us don't know how to ask these questions. We don't know how to ask for help. We don't know the direction to turn. And like resources are becoming a lot more available and more widespread. There's a lot of veterans talking up. There's a lot of veterans that want other veterans to get help and stuff like that. But it still doesn't mean that it's easy to ask for help. Until you hit that rock bottom, until somebody sees you at that rock bottom, or until somebody extends a hand, and nobody wants to be the one to to be the one to cause that initial friction or pain to interject somebody's life or intervene in somebody's life or to intervene in somebody's problems and stuff like that. People so to this day are so like in their own world that they're like, it's not my business.
Yeah, this is true.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's that's hard to like that's a hard pill to swallow. Like, my mom loved me and stuff like that. And, I had some loving family members, but a lot of these people didn't know how to help. They wanted to help, they didn't know how. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to access the resources. They didn't know um how to take that first step. And some of these first steps didn't take place until I was in jail.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I had been to treatment several times prior to that. But again, with these resources, unless you actually want the help, you're not going to get help. A crackhead can get sober in a crack house if they want to.
Yeah.
It starts with saying the word no. And we'll get into that too, because that's another point. Like the community thing, the saying no, those are all going to be points that we can touch on a little bit later.
Right.
So when some of these things took place, there was a level of ownership and accountability that I had to take on. And like one of those opportunities, like there was this very vivid conversation with my grandmother that took place, and she said, and the rest of my grandmother's soul in peace. She just recently passed away. She said, if you could get it right one time, you could quit coming back to this place.
Hmm.
And I'm looking at my grandmother, and she's 90 something years old, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking get it right. I'm gonna quit coming back to this place. And it starts with like taking one step and putting it in the right direction, right? So I was in there for 3 months. I come up for sentencing. The judge asked me, he says, you can get out on $100 bond and probation and yada, 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 whatever. And I was like, man, with all due respect, we look at my record, my past. I don't do well with coming back to court. I don't do well with showing up and like I've kind of ran a lot and stuff like that. How much time would I have to do if I just did my time? And he's like, but nobody. He didn't say bro, but he's like nobody turns down going home. And I was like, man, this is the longest I've been sober since I was a kid. Like I'm in a program, I'm doing work, working on myself. That's the longest I've been sober. So they ended up reducing and helping me out, like reducing all the violations, um, and eliminating the like dropping them to misdemeanors.
Hmm.
And he also did a how to see he did 6 months credit for time served. And then at the end, because also like if you're in prison or whatever for longer than 6 months, it's going to affect your benefits.
Right.
So it kind of helped me out with that, but like it was all through extreme ownership, but by me going first and by me taking ownership that like I was messing up. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I'm willing to sit here for me to get better. Because if I get out right now, there were people that had robbed my house. There were people that had done me wrong. There were people that I took care of that like had like, you know, cut my throat and stuff like that. And were like, with all those things, you put me back out on the street, man, I'm going after everyone. I'm going to end up right back here doing the exact same thing. And that's not going to help anybody. That's going to continue to create or repeat this habitual, like vicious cycle. You know what I mean? So 6 months credit for time served. I got out from the sentencing. I get back to the cell like a couple days later. Speyrer rack and pack. I'm like, man, what the hell? I'm going back to a facility. I'm going to be in a program, back in a program, a better program, something like that, whatever. Because I'd applied for a couple of programs. Adversity shows its ugly head again. They sent me 5.5 up the road, 5.5 hours up the road to prison. And I was sentenced to county time or parish time in Louisiana. Well, I get there. I'm there for a few days. I get the shit beat out of me by a guard. And then again, that was clarity for me that due to this is where, again, where extreme ownership comes into play is like, it's not his fault. It's unfortunate, you know, that situation took place. But if I wasn't living the way that I was living, if I wasn't doing the things that I was doing, if I wasn't, you know, acting the way that I was acting in the streets, he never would have been in the situation that he was in to do what he did to me.
Right.
So it's my fault, right? Like if you say it's my fault first, and I still struggle with that. I think a lot of people have accountability issues and ownership issues where we don't own our shit enough. You know what I'm saying? And so like that was another opportunity where those things came into play. But when I got out, that was when the real battle started.
Okay.
You know, so I relapsed a couple more times. But then again, I had to take a sit down and I was like, you know what? I need to go and I need to get myself help. I reached out to the VA, went to PTSD, TBI treatment, got back into some more drug treatment stuff. I stayed at the VA. I was only supposed to be there for like 45 days. I ended up staying for a whole like 60 days because I even extended at the end of it because I was like, look, hey, I want to be here for a little bit longer. I don't think I've gotten all the tools that I need. I just kind of like want to keep solidifying the habits that I'm creating. And inside of that facility, I started hearing these videos. I saw a video about Spartan. I saw videos from Andy Frisella. I saw videos from Eric Thomas. I saw videos from David Goggins. I saw videos from Greg Plitt, Dr. Miles Monroe, all these different guys, man, and that like hearing their mindset and how they talk about adversity and how struggles and these things and how they make you a better person and how you can use your struggles to help somebody else. And like I was like, man, I want to do that. Seeing like I want to help people. I want to share these struggles. I want to like help other people. I want to use my struggles to help somebody else write a better blueprint. Or if they're in those bad situations, how do you climb out of those bad situations? You don't have to stay in that situation forever. You're not going to be judged forever. And if people do judge you, fuck them.
Yeah. Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
if they do, what is their judgment? Their judgment has no weight on your future unless you're like, what, playing the victim card? Oh, poor me. People are going to look at me jacked up because I'm just an ex-con or I'm this or that or whatever. Man, if you would Google my name, it was nothing but rap sheets and mugshots that popped up. Now it's magazine articles, podcasts, Instagram, you know, this, that, like events that I've done, things that I've done to help veterans get service animals and like service work and community work. And that's the golden ticket. You know what I'm saying? All the past things, you know, like people love underdogs.
Yes.
If you're focused on the couple people that are going to fucking judge you, that might be, let's say that's 20%. But there's 80% of people that want to see you win. But just like it's the negativity that like negativity so power so geared to see negativity. Negativity is all over the news, negativity is all over Facebook, negativity is all over Instagram. I'm like, I don't see any negativity on Instagram, but I don't follow that stuff. I don't tolerate that stuff. I don't follow news channels. I don't watch the news. Now that might make me oblivious to some things, but if I'm working on myself, man, if the end of the world comes tomorrow, I want to be the best that I can be. I don't want to be stuck on negative. I don't want to be stuck on thinking about like the negativity. I want to go and serve church. I want to go and be like a servant to my community. I want to do the things that God called me to do. I don't want to hear about the mass shootings that just took place downtown here. I don't want to hear about this that took place. Like, I want to look for the good in people. And if I'm not watching the news, I'm not seeing the negative side of people. I'm only seeing what I'm following on Instagram, which I haven't touched in 2 months.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, um, that's just, like you are the average of your 5 closest friends, right?
This is true.
So if you hang, it's what's that old saying, bro? Like if you hang out at the barber shop long enough, you're gonna get a haircut.
Eventually.
Eventually, if you hang out with 4 people that are doing drugs, eventually you're probably gonna end up doing the drugs that they're doing. If you hang out with 4 millionaires, guaranteed you're gonna be the 5th. If you hang out with 4 people that are succeeding in business, you're probably going to be the 5th because those people are going to influence you to be better.
Exactly.
Those people are going to raise your average. You are the average of your 5 closest friends.
This is exactly true. Hey man, everything I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, bro. Everything
So I'm just grateful for these
you
lessons and opportunity.
like I think people that go through adverse things like that are meant to be a testimony. Like I got a lot of
100%.
things to share, but this ain't about me. But let's
Right.
jump to this next question real quick. How can one find a sense of purpose outside of the military?
I think that their first step is finding the community, um, and start looking at what you want to do prior to get out. And even if you're already out, I think first you need to involve yourself with like these military community, whether it's like Irreverent Warriors or like, some of these local nonprofits that are like kind of like getting active. Um, Making sure that you're going to, for me, fitness is extremely important. I like going to events, networking events, kind of like, we got the MIT coming up, dude. Getting around these events and even the va.gov shows different workshops that they have coming up. If you're struggling for a job with like, man, these people are geared and designed. People want to hire military. We need structure in our life. Veterans, military guys, girls, they love structure for the most part.
Love it.
You know what I'm saying? I like structure. I like a routine. I like to be, have. I like a structured life. You know, um, from like when I was locked up, the structure was probably the best part of the day. I knew when things were coming. So I think that by preparing, if you're already in and you're on your transition to the way out, finding that routine that's going to serve you. But I would get around different communities and look into different groups, get on the parade deck, get on whatever you got, like find something that's going to show you how to expand your network and how to get around other like-minded individuals that are not going to let you fall apart.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And if you do start to fall apart, like just it's easier said than done to reach out. Let somebody know, hey man, like things aren't working right now the way that they should. You know, things aren't going as planned on my on my journey or whatever. Like getting to one of the huge things for me was getting part of a church community. Something like having a spiritual guidance and direction and relationship with God and journaling and things like that, like, has helped me out a lot. You know, it's been extremely important um in my journey and having and building a support system, because when you build community, you build a support system.
Exactly. And I've said it before on this platform that, military is a big part of routine, and it becomes a part of an individual's purpose. And I said it once and I say it again. Military is something you've done. It's not who you are. It's like finding some way to redesign who you are outside of the military becomes hard for a lot of individuals, but you can do it. You can overcome this. Like I can't, it's not easy. Don't get me wrong, because I've had my challenges on my transition. But if you reach out to the right individual, surround yourself within the right environment, community, I guarantee you your mindset will begin to move towards that thing that who you're trying to become. And what resources have you used to help you overcome your struggles? I know the huge thing was the gym, and you, that's probably, yeah, that's the one thing for me as well. But the gym was one big thing for you, huh?
The gym was a huge thing for me, man, because that was where I was able to, like, I really kind of found my purpose inside the gym, not inside the gym, but using fit. Like when COVID hit, I hadn't been out all that long. And it's crazy to say, like, I mean, COVID's like freaking almost 4 years ago, but like 3.5 years ago, I got out like 4.5 years ago. I hadn't been out all that long, or I hadn't been out the VA all that long. So I wasn't extremely like crazy into fitness yet. But then COVID hit, I started like cycling all the time. I started flipping tires, tractor tires, running all the time. So it was either like I was running, I was cycling, I was in the gym, I was lifting weights. I was like, all these different things, because I didn't know a ton of people in Florida yet either.
Hmm.
I did my first event. It was literally me, two other guys, and then like a couple photographers, because a local magazine, V Magazine, had heard about what I was doing. I met Miss Lisa Burwell in the gym at Destin Athletic Club, and she was like, "What are you preparing for?" And I was like, "Well, it's a 24-hour event. I'm going to do a 100-mile bike ride to Panama City and back on a single speed fixed gear, which is kind of ridiculous. And then I'm going to do a 26.2-mile run walk. And then I'm going to do a 200-pound tractor tire flip for a mile.
Let's go.
Let's get it. You know what I'm saying? And that was this is my first event. We did it to raise funds for Mission 22. First event, we raised $10,000. $5,000 of that came from a company out of an aviation company out of Miami, Florida, called MD Turbines. And meeting them, they have been one of the biggest supporters from day one, ground zero, that have been so helpful, not just with myself, but the veteran community. They not only help support that event, but then they allowed me to be part of them building an event in Miami for the Veterans Day Relay and Fundraiser Challenge, which is also coming up on I think it's like November 4th this year. And it's their fourth one. They put that on after I did my event in May. We started working on that one in November, and they work with a couple different nonprofits to help veterans, whether it's like helping them get their blood work done and their hormones optimized. I introduced them, or they met up with one of my friends with Healing Paws for Warriors, where they take shelter animals and get them trained up for veterans,
Right.
as service animals. And like in that arena, you're saving two lives at one time. You're saving a dog that from the pound, and then or you getting euthanized and stuff like that, and then you're also saving a veteran's life, giving two. Now, when I say broken, I don't want people to get offended or whatever. You're taking two, and I look at animals like I look at humans. So you're taking two
Okay.
individuals and putting them together to make and create purpose and hope, and giving them an opportunity. Like, you're not just like pushing all these drugs on them to like mood stabilizers and that whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we all know that that's easy to access whenever you go into like, oh, there's just this wrong with me, there's this wrong with me. Are you ready to be a guinea pig? Because that was one of the things that took place with me whenever I got back, was that like I was struggling with my like dreams and like things like that. My mood was all jacked up and all these things. Well, then they put me on a medication. The medication had some adverse side effects. Messed up my leg, gave me compartment syndrome in my leg. Had to have a fasciotomy. Had my leg cut open. Uh, I couldn't go into to drill or like any of the military things. They marked me AWOL, which was extremely messed up. So I ended up losing my insurance or losing my TRICARE. I couldn't get wound care anymore. So the muscle became gangrenous and necrotic. I ended up having to go in for another emergency surgery where they almost cut my leg off. Doctor said I would never run again. And here I am, an endurance athlete that like not that long ago ran almost halfway across the country.
Oh my God, bro. Hey. Oh, man, it gave me goosebumps. I want to go to the gym right now. Hey, well, I'm not going to ask you this last question. I want to take you somewhere, bro. And
Let's go.
And this is going to probably get the people that's listening to kind of be like, you know what? I can overcome my struggles. You know, in the middle of the marathon you did, right? When you had in your head that you wanted to give up, where did you go to? Instead of just sit back and say, you know what, I'm already halfway in. I just got done with the bike and now I gotta do, man, I just want to quit. Where did your
Right, you
mind
already said the
take you?
answer a little while. I'm getting the goosebumps talk. It's not about me.
Let's go.
Hey, when we're at combat, we're at war, we're doing whatever, right? We don't know really what the hell we're fighting for, right? What are you fighting for? I don't know if I'm fighting for these. Uh, let's just take the conspiracy. I don't know. I don't know if I'm fighting for oil. I don't know if those planes that hit the tower were real. And I'm just gonna throw in some wild stuff out there, right? Like because these are some of the things that were talked about. I don't know if it's because of Bush just wants to invade another country. I don't know if it's because of this. I don't know if it's politics. But what I do know is that the man and the woman on the left or the right of me, I want to go home.
Let's go.
So it's not about me, right? That's what I think about whenever I want to quit. That's what I think about when I'm in the middle of like suffering and stuff like that. That's why I can run on broken feet for 3 months. That's why I can run with stress fractures in my leg. That's why I can do these things like amputated muscles out of my leg, paralysis in my foot, rod in my leg, place in my face, shifted disc in my spine. I got all these things, post-traumatic stress. I got, I'm 100% with TBI with the brain injuries that I had. But I have this like resiliency and this determination that I'm not going to let the things that happen to me dictate how I live in the future. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, they might dictate a piece of my life, but I'm not going to let that stop me from going forward and being the best that I can be.
Exactly. Every fall comes with a stand. That's what people got to understand. This might be against me now, but I'm looking at something, and it's bigger than me at this moment. Hey man, I'm so proud of you, bro. I'm so proud of you.
I'm
Like
proud of you too, man.
if you want to say something motivational to the people before I close out, man, you can. If not, I understand.
Nah, so if you can take one step, if you have anything, any kind of energy inside of you, no matter how little it is, if it's all you got. I don't care if that step's a centimeter. I don't care if it's a millimeter. I don't care if it's a foot. What if you can leap? Whatever you have inside of you, make that first step and compound that. If you take in millimeter steps over time, eventually you're going to build up some stamina. Eventually you're going to build up that endurance. Eventually you're going to build up that strength. Keep working. Keep attacking. Don't back down. Don't settle. Don't quit. Just keep moving forward. If you get kicked in the it, if life kicks you in the nuts, life kicks you when you're down, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It hurts. It sucks. Get back up. If you get knocked down 7 times, get back up 8. Don't let these motherfuckers see you fall. I mean, they can see you fall. Don't let these motherfuckers see you quit. It's
That's it.
not your failure isn't failure until you quit. Don't give up.
Man, thank you for that, brother.
Yes, sir.
About to close. Once again, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you've done. hey, you are a fighter. You are a champion. You are great. You are great. You are, hey, you the man that everybody looks up to. I look up to you right now at this moment by you sharing your story. So I thank you. Like you gave me an extra push on the things that I need to do because at times we sit back and we go on these endeavors and like, man, can I do this? Everything seems like it's stacked against me. But I have to sit back and remember for myself. My whole life has been stacked against me. So what's this challenge in front of me at this moment?
What's
So
different now? Yeah.
what's different? But I appreciate you, man. I got a quote, Walt Whitman. Keep your face always towards the sunshine, and the shadows will fall behind you. Hey, man, let's talk. Who's up next for formation? Out.
Let's go.
Appreciate you, man.